The Serang of Ranaganji by A.J. Cronin. A.J. Cronin, a physician by profession, was a famous Scottish novelist. Due to his serious illness, he gave up his medical practice and became a writer. This story is taken from his Adventures in Two Worlds, an autobiographical novel. It's an anecdote from his experience as a surgeon in the Royal Navy of the Great Britain. The ship Ranaganji was on its voyage to Calcutta from Liverpool during the British rule in India. Mr. A.J. Cronin was the physician of the ship. He was in charge of the health of the passengers. The ship was manned by white officers with an entirely native Indian crew. The passengers were mostly tourist and army officers. The ship was overcrowded and understaffed. The hero of the story is the Serang of the ship, Mr. Hassan. It tells us how the author and the Serang managed a calamity, the outbreak of the deadly epidemic smallpox on the ship, silently and bravely. Serang means the head of Lascars or gang leader of Lascars. Mr. Hassan was the Serang of the ship Ranaganji. He was ugly in appearance with short legs and large disproportionate head. He was ridiculed as an absurdly comic creature by Miss Jobsmith, a first-class passenger on the ship. Lascar. The word comes from the Persian word leshkar, meaning army. However, the term bears a wider applicability and was regularly used in reference to non-Europeans who served on British sea vessels. Miss Josh Smith was a smartly dressed tourist and a first-class passenger on the Ranaganji. She was a thrusting person and the chief among the social promoters. She was not only a snob but an assertive bore. She was interested in judging people by their physical appearance, money and social status. She always ridiculed Serang Hassan for his unusual physical appearance. On the voyage to Calcutta from Liverpool, the ship reached Port Said. The port was famous for outbreak of smallpox in the 20th century. Next day morning, Hassan appeared with two sick Lascars and Dr. A.J. Cronin diagnosed them with smallpox. There was no vaccine to vaccinate passengers. The ship was overcrowded and there was no place to isolate the patients from others. As the ship was understaffed, the captain could only provide Mr. Hassan as an assistant to Dr. A.J. Cronin. Captain also instructed him to keep the outbreak of disease as a secret to avoid panic among passengers. Smallpox is an infectious disease caused by variola virus. 400 million people had died in the 20th century due to this deadly epidemic. Dr. Cronin instructed Hassan to isolate the victims. Hassan set to work silently and soon erected a canvas shelter in the stern of the ship. Dr. Cronin and Hassan sponged the patients with disinfectants and administered medicines. They had to take care of 14 victims. Hassan devoted himself to attend the patients. He was selfless in his service, sincere and determined. His courage, moral and physical, was sublime. His confidence and presence gave great emotional support to Dr. Cronin, who was young and inexperienced in medical profession. Hassan's parents hailed from Punjab and had wandered to South India. It was at that time he took a seafaring life. He was unmarried, had no place on shore, nor savings. He was outspoken and was secular in his views. Dr. Cronin was impressed by his selfless service and expressed his desire to recommend him for a reward. But he despised rewards and money had no interest for him. He was happy with what he had. Rare acts of humanity. Of the affected patients, 2 had died during the voyage. Hassan himself sewed their shrouds. He, in his hoarse voice, read aloud a short passage from the Ramayana and threw their bodies overboard at midnight. This act of Hassan underscores the need for respecting one's beliefs and customs. Irrespective of faith, paying last tributes with due respect is a great quality that can only be seen in noble people. With the selfless help of the Serang, Dr. Cronin was able to contain the smallpox. Once the ship arrived at Colombo port, all the patients from the ship had been shifted to the hospital. 3 patients were so helpless and delirious. They became a mass of running sores, but Hassan carried them in his arms. Once the mission was over, Dr. Cronin noticed the dark cheek of Serang was wet with tears. A true reflection of nobility and heroism is visible in the act of Mr. Hassan. As Miss Jo Smith and friends were disembarking, they saw Mr. Hassan supervising the unloading of the baggage of the passengers. He became their object of mirth. They again laughed at his awkward appearance. Jo Smith sarcastically asked Dr. Cronin that where he had kept that dirty creature during the whole voyage. In a special cage? He replied, yes, he had kept him in a cage as all the animals, including her, were outside the cage. In a way, Dr. Cronin was protecting a genuine man from upper class hypocrisy, snobbery, and selfishness.